Hi, I'm Tom Byrne, president of the Korea Society, and welcome everybody to our. It's not so new anymore. We've been here for a year, but our, I think, new light and bright sunshine policy office here at the Korea Society. Tonight we have the Economy of K-pop. It's the second of five installments in our K-pop 101 Contemporary Culture series. As we approach the fall season, when we even do more activities, we'd like to encourage you to support the Korea Society so you can see more events like tonight's event. You could reach the Korea Society at www.koreasociety.org or by meeting and talking with one of our Korea Society staff who are in the back, most of them. Tonight we're delighted to have Miss Jenna Gibson, who is the communications director of the Korea Economic Institute in Washington, D.C. And she's here to discuss the business of K-pop with our program officer and K-pop aficionado, Miss Luz Lansot. So please give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Again, my name is Luz Lansot. I'm the Program Officer for Education and Performing Arts, and I'm delighted to see you all here to discuss K-pop. A little bit of background on our speaker. Jenna Gibson joined KEI in 2015, and she now runs their media relations and outreach. She earned her Master's of Science in Foreign Service from Georgetown University in 2015, and she focused on global politics, security, with a particular emphasis on human rights and communications in East Asia. She graduated with a degree in journalism and international studies from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in 2011, and she is a K-pop fan. So please welcome Jenna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm really excited to be here. And thank you, Luz, for organizing this and for the Korea Society for hosting what I think will be a really interesting talk. And I really look forward to your questions, hearing what you guys want to know. But for now, I will start with my outline so you can see where we're going to be going tonight. I'm going to start with kind of the state of the industry, how things are going at the moment, talk a little bit about domestic trends in K-pop. Then, of course, we have to talk about the push overseas and Hallyu, or Korean wave, the popularity of Korean culture overseas, strategies that companies have used to promote in different countries around the world. And then we'll finish off with some challenges and then future trends in K-pop. So any of you who have been online and who are fans will probably recognize this meme, but I threw that in there because as a fan, this is honestly how a lot of fans feel. When a new group releases their big album and they have 10 different versions that you have to collect, this is what you think of, basically. Something you really, really want, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So that's from the fan perspective, but I wanted to dive a little bit into the background and what the companies are thinking when it comes to the economics of this industry. So just to lay the groundwork, this is the total revenue of the K-pop industry from 2013 to 17. So you can see this steady increase. And I can guarantee you when the 2018 numbers come out, it will be another increase. So the K-pop industry is doing really well. And economically, this is, it's a growing industry. This is a little bit small, so hopefully you can all see it in the back, but this is basically the breakdown of where that revenue is coming from in terms of the different types of income that these companies have. When you're a fan of K-pop, a lot of what you think of is the music and maybe like TV appearances and things like that, but actually music itself is only about a third of the revenue for the big three entertainment companies. A lot of the money that they're making is from other things like merchandise sales, concerts, TV appearances. A lot of times on talk shows, they might get an appearance fee. And then advertisements as well. If you go, see any Korean products, it's probably a K-pop star or an actor who is promoting the product. And that brings in a lot of revenue as well. One thing I really want to point out with this slide as well, you can't see this because they put music into one big category, but physical CDs are actually a very large chunk, almost half of that music revenue. And I challenge anyone here in the US to find someone who bought a physical CD recently, but that is not the case in Korea. Actually, people really still do buy physical CDs. And the reason for that is they make it worthwhile. Entertainment companies know that fans will buy CDs if you put something special in it, like a exclusive photo book or collectible photo cards with each member's face on it. So you have to buy multiple copies to try to collect them all. One thing that I think is actually really, really smart that they do is they will partner with CD stores to have special events. So, for example, a CD store in Seoul might be having a fan sign where you can go and get your CD signed by the artist. And in order to get into the fan sign, you can buy a CD, and that's your entry ticket for the raffle to be able to see your favorite artist in person and actually see them face to face and get a signature. So if you desperately need to see your favorite artist and get their signature, maybe you have to buy 5 tickets, aka 5 CDs, or maybe you have to buy 10. So depending on the popularity of the artist, people buy multiple copies of the same CD, and then they may sell it online or they may give it to friends or something like that. So these companies know exactly how to get to your wallets. One thing I will say, too, in a recent speech, the CEO of JYP Entertainment specifically said that the way that he measures success for his groups is based on hard copy album sales. And the reason for that is because people who are buying those hard copies are true fans. If you are just, you like the single, you like the group kind of generally, you might download the album, you might stream it a couple of times. But if you buy the hard copy, you're probably going to buy a concert ticket. And you're probably going to buy some merch to go along with it. So if you have really strong hard album sales, that's how he measures whether there's a strong fan base and therefore whether these other forms of revenue will continue to come in for the company. Okay, this is a pop quiz. Does anyone know this drama? Yeah? You know it? Yeah. Okay. So this is actually a drama from 1991 to 1992. You might recognize some of the faces in there. Some of the actors are really popular, but this actually wasn't that popular of a drama. But it's called 사랑이 뭘기래. It's a what is love, basically. And the reason I'm showing you this photo is because this actually is considered to be the first Hallyu product ever. This is the drama that launched Hallyu overseas, the popularity of Korean culture overseas. Basically what happened was in 1992, the Korean Culture and Tourism Institute sent a Betamax copy, yes, Betamax, Betamax copy of this entire drama, which the Korean government paid to sub in Cantonese. So they subbed it into Cantonese. They sent it to the Korean consulate in Hong Kong, and the Korean consulate went to the local TV station and said, hey, here's this free drama that we already subbed for you. Oh, and by the way, we also talked to some Korean companies, and they promised to buy airtime in the ads if you air this drama for us. And they said, sure, why not? It's free, right? And we don't have to do anything. And this drama took off in Hong Kong and in Guangzhou, which also got some of the airtime at the time. And so then all of a sudden, Hong Kong TV and Chinese TV stations are clamoring for more Korean dramas that can be this popular. So the reason I tell this story is because you can't really talk about the economics of K-pop, especially overseas, without talking about the government's support, right? Before I go too much further, I should also mention that there is a reason that K-pop companies are so interested in going overseas. If you think about the Korean market for music, it's very strong, it's very vibrant, but it's also 50 million people plus some diaspora, and that's the cap, at least at the time before K-pop became popular overseas. So there was a reason the Korean government wanted these products to be popular overseas. That is, 100 times more audience, possibly, than they could have domestically. So this was a very deliberate on the part of the Korean government, and it's very deliberate on the part of the entertainment companies. just to give you guys an idea of how crowded the market is in domestically for K-pop, in 2016, there were 29 new K-pop groups that debuted and 27 solo artists in 2016 alone. 2017, there were 38 new groups and 20 solo artists, and 12 groups have debuted so far this year. And some groups have disbanded, but not nearly as many as have debuted. So there just honestly is a limited amount of space in the market for any given group. And especially if you're from a smaller company, you might not be able to get the airtime that a larger company could get. So some of these companies have very deliberately decided to go overseas. One of the examples I will give is a group called Card that debuted, I believe it was last year or the year before. It's a co-ed group, which is actually kind of cool because there's very few co-ed groups in K-pop. But they actually did a US tour before they really had any promotions in Korea. So it's a K-pop group, but they deliberately went to the US to target the US K-pop fan base. I remember at the time, my friends and I were kind of texting about, have you heard of this group? Like, I didn't even know they had a CD, and they have a concert in like Dallas and Chicago and DC actually. So we were kind of confused, but it was a very deliberate strategy on their part. Getting back a little bit to the Korean government support, this is still very much a thing. This is a picture of Ihai from South by Southwest just a couple of months ago. And she was there as part of what's called Korea Spotlight, which is funded by the Korea Creative Content Agency, which is hard to say. But it's the acronym is KOCA, so I'll just say KOCA, which is a government-funded body. They paid for her and Card and a couple other artists to go to South by Southwest. And they've been doing this since about 2013 when they brought FX to be the first K-pop artist to perform at South by Southwest. So every year they have funded the travel for these groups to play at what is one of the biggest and most well-known music festivals in the United States and around the world. So still very much a thing, but definitely the Korean government has been able to pull back because K-pop is popular on its own now. They were very much trying to build the fan base, trying to make sure that they could establish some popularity overseas. And now that the popularity has been established, they've been able to step back a little bit. One of my favorite examples is this. This is from 2011. So, yeah, this is a flash mob in Paris in 2011. So you can see everyone gathering and dancing.
That's going to be us later on the roof.
Yeah, on the rooftop, this will be us. So I'll just pause that for now. But basically what happened was 2011, SM Entertainment, which is definitely at the time, and I think still now is the biggest entertainment company in Korea, they were bringing their SM Town group concert on a world tour. And so you could see some of the biggest acts in K-pop, Dongbang, Super Junior, Girls' Generation, FX at the time. Every big group was going to be there from SM. And, fans in Paris wanted a show. So they were going to have a show in Paris. It sold out within 15 minutes, 6,000 tickets, gone. So fans who weren't able to go said, well, why don't we just have them add another date? So they did this flash mob asking for a second date, which SM actually did do, and that also sold out. So that's great. That's awesome, right? These fans are taking charge. Actually, that was all the Korean government's doing. So what happened was the Korean Cultural Center in Paris, there was one guy who has actually done an interview. If you guys haven't read the book, The Birth of Korean Cool by Eunhee Hong, it's really good. So she actually interviewed the guy who single-handedly made this concert happen. And what he did was he got a grant from the Korean government for 250,000 euro. And then he went to SM Entertainment and he said, hey, we'll give you 250,000 euro if you come and do a concert in Paris. So SM said, okay, sure, why not? You're paying for it. So they showed up and then it sold out. And there were so many fans that wanted to have this, to see their favorite artists. And suddenly SM is like, oh, we actually have a market in Paris. Why not? And then what's even more interesting is then this particular guy, this guy who worked at the Korean Cultural Center, then said, I wonder if SM would do a second date if I got enough people to ask for it. So he called the local Parisian Korean Cultural Fan Club, and he said, why don't you guys do a flash mob? And then he called KBS and MBC and all the other Korean TV stations and said, hey, why don't you show up at the Louvre at this time, and maybe there'll be something interesting for you. And this was born. And so because it got so much news coverage and because so many people showed up, SM had another successful concert in Paris. And I say all this just to show you that the Korean government is very much behind Hallyu, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's great. These fans would not be able to see their favorite artists if it weren't for the support of the Korean government. But you really can't forget about the role that the government has played when it comes to the economics of this industry. Before I get too much further as far as the overseas push, unfortunately, the most recent numbers that I was able to find was 2015, so these are certainly going to be bigger now because K-pop has just continued to grow. But you can get a general idea of some of the big areas where K-pop has been very popular. Japan is the biggest. I think that still continues to be the case. This is partially also because the yen is very strong, so when you buy a CD, it costs a lot more. And Japanese fans are buying CDs, so that's part of it too. The Middle East is also a really growing area. I would say that if it's not surpassing some of these places, it will at some point. The Middle East is also really into Korean dramas as well, so that's bound to be up there if you just take Hallyu as a whole. So yeah, okay. So basically, when I was looking at how the Korean entertainment industry has tried to do this overseas push, I kind of saw it as them throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. From like 2010 to 2015, they were doing all these kind of random things. Maybe this concert in Paris, which was successful, but then you have like some US debuts. You had Girls' Generation on David Letterman, and then that didn't really go anywhere. So it seemed to me that there was a lot of this trial and error going on for from 2010 to 15 approximately. So some of the things really worked, some of them really, really didn't. And I'll just give you this example, which is the Wonder Girls movie. Yes, they had a movie. It was on Nickelodeon from 2012. It is very cheesy. And I don't think anyone would say that the Wonder Girls had a very huge US career after this, even though this is a huge movie on a very big TV channel. Okay. I won't subject you to that too much, but it's kind of fun in like a very Nickelodeon, TV made for TV movie kind of way. But in any case, Wonder Girls had this like possibility for a US debut. They really tried. They all like spoke English pretty well. They opened for the Jonas Brothers at one point during one of their concerts, and then it kind of faded out. So there have been other artists as well. CL famously has been trying to have a US debut for many years, and it just kind of hasn't worked. And I think that's partially because of the strategy and the lack of focus for it. You have to really just push hard to enter the market. But some of those things did work. So for example, similar to the SM Town concert, there have been other types of concerts where it's a large number of different groups together. And I would say that that's actually been very, very successful, both in terms of promoting Korean culture overseas, but also in terms of the revenue. So Music Bank, which is one of the big TV shows in Korea where artists go and promote every week their new songs, they've done a tour where they went to Mexico City, Jakarta, Istanbul. They're going to Berlin in a couple of weeks. And they'll bring multiple artists from different companies, and those artists will do a couple of songs. Everyone will get to see, a handful of different artists, which is fun for the audience. But then it's also great for the company because they don't have to pony up for a full concert on their own. So especially smaller companies, this is really great. And especially companies that are debuting new acts, they can test the market in these smaller venues and also with these, group rate kind of performances. So they can kind of test the market and see, okay, Berlin didn't really seem to like that act, but Jakarta did. Maybe we can have a concert there. So this is a really great way that they've been able to test markets and to try different things. KCON is another one, actually. KCON LA just happened 2 weeks ago, I believe. And they're going to Thailand for the first time this year. They've also had them in Abu Dhabi. I think they also had a Paris one. But anyway, they have all over the world, KCON, which also has more of a convention component along with the concert. So yeah, you don't have to pay too much if you're the entertainment company. Maybe you just send one artist that does a handful of songs, and you can see how people react. So that's actually been one very successful trial market.
Yeah, we actually went to KCON New York, which was in late June, and I believe CJ said there were 53,000 people that came over 2 days. And so the whole day from about 10 or 11 to 5 p.m. were performances, dance workshops, panels talking about all different things about covering K-pop in media, about LGBT issues in K-pop. And every panel was packed. Every workshop was packed. People were just very eager to be around others who were enthusiastic about the same thing. And they were eager to spend their money buying merchandise, buying the concert tickets, which were not cheap, paying money to enter for a chance to meet their artists. So there were red carpets, there were fan engagements, but you weren't guaranteed unless you spent a lot of money.
Yeah, which I'm sure some people did.
Yeah.
So from the company perspective, this is awesome, right? Like, you're not paying for any of this as far as the venues and stuff, maybe a small amount, but nothing compared to what you would have to pay if you were just doing the concert as a solo performance. So yeah, these kinds of things I think will continue and maybe even grow. Oops, let's not do that again. Okay, so so that brings us to today. Like I said, this is kind of 2010 to 15, maybe 16. They're still in the trial and error period. But now I think the entertainment companies have done a very good job of seeing what worked and what didn't, and now they're really running with it. I'm going to talk about a couple of these examples. I know I don't want to take too much time on these, but Super Junior is a really cool example because they were actually one of the first Korean acts to have concerts in Latin America, and they were highly successful. So 2012 and 13, I think they did several concerts in Latin America, different countries. And then 2018 in April, they broke all their own records with their tour. They went to Peru, Argentina, Mexico, and Chile. And they had a total of 55,000 fans for those 4 concerts. And so seeing that they were super, super popular in the Latin market, their entertainment company actually released a trilingual song. Their new single is in Spanish, English, and Korean. And they had a Latin pop star, Leslie Grace, be the collaborating artist on that. So they really just saw that what had been working and went with it. And that's awesome. And it actually went on the Latin charts, I believe. They won was it Kids' Choice, People Choice, Mexico, Best Collaboration or something like that for this song. So it's basically been seeing what worked and what didn't and finding what worked and going with it. I think that's the trend we're seeing now. EXO, they got, I think it was the tourism board of Dubai, put their song as the first K-pop song for the Dubai fountain that plays. It's kind of like the Bellagio where they have the fountain and it plays different songs and they do choreography with the water. It's really cool. And their song was going to be the first K-pop song. So they actually sent the band to witness the first performance of the song. And while they were there, they announced that SM Town, they will be going with SM Town to a concert in Abu Dhabi, which already happened, but at the time they announced that it was going to happen. So basically it's been, okay, so obviously they're popular here. Otherwise this tourism board wouldn't have, put their song as the first K-pop song. So maybe we can do a concert here. It's that kind of thing, seeing what the market wants and going with it. Twice is also a really cool example of a lot of different things that have been happening in the industry. They have multiple Japanese members and they have a Taiwanese member. And they are doing so well in Japan. It's insane. They are just blowing away the market in Japan. And I would say it's partially because of their sound. Their sound is a little bit J-poppy to me, very bright, very very fun. But also because they have multiple members who are fluent in Japanese, who know what fans want in Japan and can really speak to that. So I think that having foreign members has definitely been a trend as far as pushing overseas and trying to capture different markets. There are several Thai members of K-pop groups now. Nikun was the only one for a long time. And now in Blackpink, there's a Thai member as well. Lots of Chinese members to mixed success. But yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of the entertainment companies seeing what has worked and really going with it. Oh, this is one of my favorite articles. If you are interested in BTS and you're interested in fandom, you should look up this article. That's the title. It's my favorite article because it does such a great job of talking to fans. He interviews fans, he talks to them, and it really shows how much time and effort and energy that fans put into making their artists a success. So in this, I won't read the whole thing. You can hopefully read it, but basically, when BTS was releasing their new song last summer, ARMY, their fan club in the US, said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's a script. Everybody call your local radio station and request their song. And they did. It was amazing. This was such a success because everybody in all these different local areas, it's not one person in New York calling, Tennessee. Someone in Tennessee is calling their local station and saying, this is what I want you to play. Those radio stations don't know about BTS. Now they do because someone called them, and they're perfectly happy to play it because it does really well once it's on the air, but they didn't know about it before. So this was a very strategic and very smart push on the part of the fans to make BTS more of a success in the United States. And I would say it's things like this that has brought them the success that we're seeing today in terms of being on TV, in terms of selling out their concerts. They're having a huge stadium concert here in just, a couple weeks, or when is it?
October 6th.
Yeah, at Citi Field, right?
They sold out 40,000 seats in under an hour.
Yeah, they're doing very, very well. And it's because ARMY have supported them, right? And proselytized to others as well.
Proselytizing is a huge part.
Yeah, this is just fun. I like it. It's funny. This is when they were on James Corden, and that's huge. That's awesome. And the thing that's different about BTS too, because like I said, Girls' Generation was on David Letterman, but that was it. They were on James Corden. They were on Ellen. They were on Jimmy Kimmel. The MTV Music Awards, or what else was it? AMAs, Billboard Music Awards. They've been on multiple shows over time, right? So that's what's really kept the momentum going. I'm just going to show this for a second because it's funny. He's literally throwing fruit at their face, which is actually one of the most Korean variety show things that you could do on American TV. Yeah.
It also helps that the leader of BTS is fluent in English.
Oh, yeah.
Which it's a really funny story. He apparently watched Friends over and over, I guess first with Korean subtitles and with English subtitles and with no subtitles to teach himself English. And he's pretty fluent. I mean, yeah.
That certainly helps. I think that really helps. I think it's also become less of a barrier. Having one member is very, very helpful. But people have seen how successful this is, and they're still willing to do it. Right? So, okay. They'll do a slow-mo and then I'll stop. It's just hilarious to me. It's very strange to me to see James Corden and BTS in the same room. Okay. You should look it up. It's funny. I think this was the most successful of their appearances. On Ellen, they were kind of just chatting. It was fine. Jimmy Kimmel, that was pretty good. They did a performance and everything too. But James Corden really went full on with the Korean variety show theme. I think he does this with other people too, but it really worked. And they know how to ham it up for the camera too. It was great.
I think online interviews like BuzzFeed and other media outlets, they have BTS with puppies,
Yes.
answering fan questions, Super Junior playing Would You Rather.
Oh my gosh, if you haven't listened to Super Junior's Would You Rather interview with BuzzFeed, it's so great. They just like, I mean, they've been in the industry for so long, they don't really care anymore in terms of like, they're willing to just say whatever they actually think, and that's the best.
Right. But I think the constant stream of content creation is such a integral part of what makes K-pop so popular, because there's always something new to consume. You're never bored.
Right, for sure. And as a fan, there's always something to like push your idol to like the top of the charts, or to get a certain number of streams in a day, or
to vote for this fan award. There's always some kind of campaign going on for your favorite artist.
Which is also very smart on the part of the companies too, because they fan that and they are making money off of it too. So that's getting the fans behind things is very, very important. This is just the total exports of K-pop. So this is around the world. You can see it's a very similar type of a curve to the first graph. This is obviously a lot less. This is hundreds of millions of dollars versus billions was the first graph, but you can see how much it's increasing. And again, I can guarantee you that 2018 is just, even higher. I'll talk a little bit. Oh, before I get to challenges, for 1 second. I want to say though that like we've been talking about how much the fans have, spent time and money and energy loving their group and really propelling their careers. But I do want to point out that the companies have done a really good job of finding things that the fans want and responding to it. So, for example, BTS obviously is doing very, very well in the United States. They're, on all these shows. They have lots of fans who are willing to call radio stations for them. So Big Hit, which is their entertainment company, said, okay, obviously we want to be able to reach these fans. Why don't we sell our CDs on Amazon? They were the first entertainment company, you can believe this, to sell their new CDs directly on Amazon. And it was a huge success. I think their new CD, which is coming out literally tomorrow, had like record pre-orders on Amazon right now. So, and that's awesome, because as a fan of who wants to buy other K-pop CDs, you have to go through a third-party reseller that's probably going to jack up the price, and then it's not going to come for 2 weeks because it's going through China. Like, it's horrible. And I am willing to spend the money if you will let me, right, as a fan. But it's very difficult to do that. So companies are doing a very good job of seeing where the money's at and making it a little bit easier. So Amazon is a big thing for the North American market. SM Entertainment opened their own merch store that's now you can buy stuff internationally instead of having to get all your friends every time they go to Seoul to like stock up for you like I do. Yeah, we're like K-pop mules sometimes. So whenever I go to Seoul, I'm like, do you guys need any CDs? Because I'll just bring them all back. So, but like I would spend the money if I could. So that's one thing that I think companies are doing a better job of now, and they can continue to improve. Challenges, barriers, there's several. Geopolitics, unsurprisingly, affects everything. The biggest controversy recently is THAAD. For those of you who don't know, I work in DC, so we heard about this all the time. But from about 2015 to 2017, and even kind of continuing now, there was a missile defense system that the United States and South Korea decided to deploy in South Korea. It's a defensive system that basically shoots down missiles that may be coming towards South Korea, basically from North Korea. But it also includes a very sophisticated radar system that can detect the missiles. And you know what's really close to North Korea? Is China. And they were not too happy about that radar system. So they de facto boycotted a lot of Korean products, including a lot of cultural products. So for example, there were a couple of things like cell phones that had a Korean actor as the spokesperson that suddenly had a Chinese person as a spokesperson overnight. And then there were some concerts that basically had to be canceled for unknown reasons. All these things at the same time that were never really acknowledged as a boycott, but were essentially a boycott. So the K-pop industry took a huge hit, especially the groups that were very invested in China at the time. So they really couldn't do anything in China. A lot of visas were denied. They couldn't go. They couldn't do concerts. So that was a big hit from 2000, like I said, about 2015 to 17. It's kind of recovered now. I think people are really wary about going back into China because you never know when something like this could come up again. But that missile system has nothing to do with K-pop, and the entertainment company had no control over that. But they are still affected by it. One controversy that they kind of had control over was this one. You can see the photo. This is Tsuyi from Twice, and she is originally from Taiwan, and there she is waving the Taiwanese flag. You can imagine who was not very happy about that. There was a huge backlash from China after this aired, and the entertainment company basically made her apologize, and it's this really horrible, it looks like a prison, like it's gray concrete background. She's like not wearing makeup, she's crying. She's 15 years old at the time, by the way. And she's crying and saying how sorry she is for waving the flag of Taiwan. So then, of course, Taiwan was pissed off because why would you make her do this and apologize for her country? So this back and forth, and unfortunately, Twice is caught in the middle. So they suffered some backlash on both sides, as well as other groups in the company. I believe 2PM, which is in the same entertainment company, had to cancel an event in Beijing that they were doing at the time. So again, I mean, it's something that probably they didn't even think of, but you can really stumble into some issues in politics that will then affect how you can run your business. One other thing that's really an issue that's getting a little bit better, but there is a language barrier, obviously. With the music, you're not a fan of K-pop if you care that it's in Korean. In fact, a lot of people love that it's in Korean, obviously. But when it comes to interviews or when it comes to TV appearances, you want to be able to understand what they're saying, what they're doing. So that's one thing that, like I said, has gotten a little bit better. But when I was first getting into K-pop in 2011, you either spoke Korean or you didn't get to watch it, or you had to wait months for a fan to sub it for you. And then you go on Daily Motion somewhere in the dark side of the internet, and you try to find subtitles for random 5-minute clips, right? That's gotten so much better, but that still is a little bit of a barrier, especially for smaller languages that aren't, English, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese. And then when we're talking about overseas appearances, it does cost a lot of money, right? So say you have 5, 6, 7, 12 members in your K-pop group, you're paying for flights and accommodation for all 12 of them, hypothetically. You're paying for stylists for all of them to come with. You're paying for makeup artists. You're paying for security. You're paying for management. It gets very expensive very quickly. And that doesn't even cover the cost of the venue. So again, that's why I think some of these cost-saving measures, like having group concerts, can cut down on that. Maybe you can share stylists or things like that. But that is still a huge barrier when it comes to appearances overseas. Now, just some future trends and addressing some of those challenges. Localization is a huge thing that companies are going towards right now. At the JYP speech that I mentioned at the beginning, where he was talking about getting that fan base together, he noted that for his company, one of their main goals is globalization through localization. That was a quote. And that doesn't mean a whole lot, but what it basically means is that for quite some time, when K-pop was starting to become popular overseas, they took Korean content and they exported it. And people liked it or they didn't. And then they started to have some foreign talents integrated into the groups. So I mentioned Twice has several foreign members. 2PM, which is a JYP company, had a group had Nikun, who's Thai. They've had several Korean Americans. There's a lot of Chinese members in groups. That was kind of the next step, was integrating foreign talent into K-pop groups. And now we're at this 3.0 stage where Korean entertainment companies are creating foreign groups. So JYP, for example, just debuted a group called Boy Story, and it has 6 Chinese members. And it's a Chinese pop group that's run by a Korean entertainment company. And that's great for a lot of reasons. Number one, because they all speak Chinese. They can promote in China completely. They can spend all their time there. They can, they know the market a little bit better. It's also great because they don't need visas and China can't kick them out, which they've done. So I think that that's something that is a way for these companies to get around a lot of these barriers that I was talking about, is really just going full on local talent. JYP is also going to be debuting a girl group with entirely Japanese members. And then SM Entertainment has their NCT, however you want to call it, project, I guess. It's going to be up to like 45 or 50 members of different subunits. So they probably are going to perform together for some big like collaboration thing in a couple of years. But right now they're essentially debuting separate groups that are kind of part of the same brand. And they just announced that they're going to have one that's entirely made up of Chinese members. And the idea is that they might do some that are going to promote only in Southeast Asia, or maybe they'll have someone in Japan, those kinds of things. So like the full local talent is definitely a big trend that's coming up. Like I said, better distribution channels for albums and merchandise. I actually found this really, really awesome, extensive, like 800-page long survey that the Korean government, I think it was KOCA, had done in 17 different countries. And they asked fans of Hallyu content all kinds of questions. But one of the questions that they asked was, what do you find lacking? Or like, 부족하다. What do you find lacking in what you would like to have and you don't have it? And the top answer for a lot of the countries, and in some of the other countries, it was like the second answer, was places to buy more stuff related to our favorite artists and places to see our favorite artists in person. So what that says to me is that there are people who are willing to open their wallets. They just have to have a place to put the money. So I think entertainment companies are seeing that and they're realizing that, but there's still, like I said, some barriers to that. I think it'll get better in the future. More collaboration, multi-group concerts. I've talked about that already. This is actually really cool. The taking advantage of fan passion is something that more companies are doing. It's great. If you look at this screenshot, I'm not sure how much you can see, but this is from V Live, which is, I kind of describe it as like Instagram story but longer, or like Snapchat but longer. Your favorite celebrities, if they're having dinner or something, they can just like have dinner and be chatting with you live, or they might just do like some fun little games with each other, and it's just like a live video that, you know, people can leave comments and you can watch, and you can also watch later on. BTS does a particularly good job with it. They've done this BTS Run BTS series for quite some time. They'll just like do fun little activities and put the video up. But you can see when you click on the subtitles, there are subtitles in German, Dutch, English, Spanish, French, Indonesian, Italian, Polish, Romanian. I don't know what Magyar is, Portuguese, like, yeah. So there's all kinds of subs. Those are all done by fans. The company had nothing to do with those subtitles. They may have done the English only, but, you know, the content is in Korean. They may put up the English subs. And then you can see on the corner, it says Create V Fan Subs. So all those other subtitles, and it says who did it on the side, were created by fans, because fans in Poland and Romania want to share this content with other people who maybe don't speak Korean. So they're willing to do the work if the companies give them a place to do it. So I think that's one thing that companies know, that they're working on it. They're giving them these chances to use their passion for the good of the fandom, but also for the good of the bottom line for the company. So I think I'll stop there. I've talked a lot. There's a lot the more I could say, but I will stop there, and hopefully you guys have some interesting questions. We can talk more. I do want to say special thanks to Junie Kim, who is a program manager at KEI. He made the graphs for us for the PowerPoint there. And then Soo-yeon Ham, who's one of our interns, and she helped me do some of the research. So thank you all.